There's a number in your head right now. You haven't said it out loud. You haven't typed it into a calculator, but it's there, sitting in the back of your skull like a debt you owe someone. It's the number in your retirement account, or the number that should be in your retirement account, or the empty space where a number should be. And every piece of financial advice you've ever seen has said the same thing about that number. It's too late. It's not. And I can prove it, but not with the math you've been shown. Not the compound interest starting at 22 math that every financial influencer uses to make you feel like the game ended before you knew it was being played. There is a completely different equation that only works after 50. One that the financial industry has zero incentive to teach you because it doesn't generate fees, it doesn't sell courses, and it turns panicking 50-year-olds into calm ones. And calm 50-year-olds are terrible customers. I'm going to show you that equation. But first, I need you to meet Dennis. Dennis is 51, respiratory therapist, makes $74,000 a year, raised 2 kids, paid rent in cities where rent doubled in a decade, kept the lights on during a pandemic while literally helping people breathe. Dennis didn't blow his money on yachts. Dennis spent it on life. And life is really expensive when the economy is designed to make sure you never have anything left over. It's a Tuesday in March. Dennis is eating leftover pasta at 10 p.m. and for a reason he couldn't explain if you asked, he logs into a 401k he hasn't touched since 2014. Tries 3 passwords. The third one works. The number loads. $23,000. 15 years to retirement. 20 years of retirement after that. That's $96 a month. His streaming subscriptions cost more than his future retirement income. He sets down his phone the way you'd set down a glass you just realized was empty. Now, before I show you what Dennis does next, and what he does next turns that $23,000 into nearly $400,000, without a side hustle, without crypto, without a financial advisor taking a percentage of money he can't afford to lose. I need 90 seconds of your time to explain why he's here, because it's not the reason you think. 60% of private sector workers in 1980 had a pension. A company guaranteed them income for life after they stopped working. By 2024, that number was 4%. The pension didn't fade away. It was killed and replaced by the 401k, which was a tax loophole from 1978 that was never designed to be a retirement system. It was a workaround that corporate America adopted because it meant employees managed their own retirement and companies didn't have to. Goldman Sachs calls the generation that got this deal the 401k experiment generation. Their word, experiment, on millions of human lives. And then they didn't teach you how any of it works. You are more likely to have been taught the quadratic formula, which you have never once needed, than how a tax-advantaged retirement account works, which you have needed every single day since you turned 18. And that wasn't a gap in the curriculum. It was a business model. Every confused 50-year-old who panics and calls a financial advisor is worth $80,000 to $120,000 in fees over the next 15 years. Every person who doesn't understand Social Security timing gives the government 30% less in lifetime payouts. The financial ignorance of American adults is not a bug. It's a revenue stream. You were not stupid. You were profitable. Now, the equation I promised you. And it starts with something Dennis hasn't noticed yet. Dennis has a mug on his desk. Says, "World's okayest dad." His son bought it as a joke. Dennis drinks from it every morning without irony. He's been a pretty good dad for 22 years. And being a pretty good dad is expensive in ways that don't show up on a retirement calculator. His youngest just moved out. No drama. Boxes in a Honda Civic. A text that said, "Forgot my phone charger. Can you mail it?" Dennis sits down on a Saturday and goes through 3 months of bank statements, line by line, and he starts circling things. The $387 a month for his kids' car insurance? Gone. The $220 phone plan that covered 3 lines? Down to 1. The $400 in grocery inflation from feeding a 22-year-old who eats like he's storing food for winter? Done. The random $150 Venmo requests labeled stuff that Dennis never questioned because questioning it felt like failing as a parent? Over. He adds it up. $1,160 a month. Dennis didn't get a raise. He didn't cut anything. His life just got cheaper. And this isn't a Dennis thing. This is a demographic fact. Average household spending drops 15 to 20% between ages 50 and 60 as children leave. On a $74,000 income, that's $11,000 to $15,000 a year that materializes out of what feels like thin air. Except it was always there. It was just wearing your kids' sneakers and eating your groceries. This is the liberation number, the money your life is already giving back to you. And the entire rescue plan starts with one question. Can you capture that money before you get used to spending it on something else? Because you will get used to it. That's how lifestyle creep works. 3 months after your kid moves out, you'll upgrade the streaming package, eat out more because you deserve it, and the slack disappears. Not to your kid, to nothing, to the general ambient cost of being alive. The window where you notice the extra money and can redirect it is 60 to 90 days. After that, it's gone. Dennis captures it. Here's what happens. He calls HR. 20 minutes. He increases his 401k contribution by $1,100 a month. And here's the part no one under 30 will ever tell you because it doesn't apply to them. Dennis is over 50. Which means the IRS lets him contribute an extra $7,500 a year on top of the normal $23,500 limit. $31,000 a year in tax-advantaged space. The tax code literally has a catch-up provision designed for this exact moment, and almost nobody uses it because almost nobody knows it exists. Dennis's $1,100 monthly contribution is roughly $13,200 a year. That's not the max. It doesn't need to be. Perfection isn't the goal. Movement is. $23,000 starting balance, $13,200 a year, 15 years, 7% average annual return. Final number, approximately $387,000. It's not $1 million. It's not what the retirement calculator says he should have, but it's a real retirement, a dignified one, an I can pay my bills and not eat cat food one. From $23,000 to $387,000, without a single side hustle, crypto gamble, or financial guru subscription. Dennis stares at that number for a long time, and then he does the thing that actually starts the plan. Which isn't the HR phone call. The HR phone call was easy. This is the hard part. It's a Wednesday evening. Dennis is at the kitchen table. His wife, Sarah, is across from him. He's got the bank statements in front of him, the ones with the circles, and a printout of the retirement projection. He hasn't shown her any of it. There's a version of this where Dennis just quietly makes the changes and never says the number out loud. A lot of men do that. Handle it privately. Fix it before anyone notices. But Dennis knows something about private plans. They die privately too. The diet you don't tell anyone about is the diet you quit on Thursday. The savings plan your wife doesn't know about is the plan that disappears the first time something expensive breaks. So he tells her. $23,000. It lands in the kitchen the way those numbers always land. Not with a crash, with a silence. Sarah doesn't yell. Doesn't do the thing Dennis has been imagining for weeks, where she asks how he let this happen. She sits with it the way you sit with a diagnosis, processing, not reacting. And then she says, okay, so what do we do? Not how could you, what do we do? And that question, that we, is the moment the plan becomes real. Not the math, not the HR call. The moment another person is in it with you. Because now there's accountability that isn't just a spreadsheet. There's someone who'll notice if the contribution changes, and there's someone who chose to stay in the room after hearing the number. If you're watching this at midnight with your phone brightness turned down, and you haven't said your number out loud to the person sleeping next to you, that's the first step. Not the 401k, the kitchen table, the number said out loud, the silence after. And then, if you're lucky, the we. Now, Dennis has the plan. Dennis has the projection. Dennis has Sarah, but But Dennis almost became Kenneth, and I need you to understand how close that edge is. Kenneth is 53. Kenneth also woke up at 50 with nothing saved. Kenneth also felt the panic. But Kenneth did what the panic tells you to do. He tried to make up for lost time. It's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Kenneth is in bed, phone 3 inches from his face, blue light making him look like a ghost. His wife is asleep. He's in a crypto Discord. Someone named Alpha Grindset has posted a chart showing a coin up 300% in 6 weeks. Kenneth doesn't understand the chart. He doesn't need to understand the chart. The chart goes up. He's 50 with nothing. Up is what he needs. He puts in $8,000, borrowed against his home equity line of credit, which is a fancy way of saying he bet his house on a coin invented 4 months ago by someone who may or may not be a college sophomore in Estonia. Then a coworker mentions a real estate syndication, guaranteed 12% returns. 2 things about that word guaranteed in investing. The first is that it's almost always a lie, and the second is that even when it's not, the fine print will eat you alive. Kenneth puts in $25,000. There's a 3-year lockup he doesn't read because he's too busy reading the line that says 12%. The crypto drops 60% in a month. Alpha Grindset deletes his account. The real estate syndication sends a paper letter. Paper letters are never good, explaining that distributions are temporarily paused. Temporarily, in syndication language, means you'll get a check in 4 years or a lawsuit notification in 6. Kenneth lost $41,000 in 18 months. Not because he's stupid, because he was scared, and fear and greed use the same neural pathway, and at 50 with nothing, that pathway is a highway with no speed limits. Here's why I'm telling you this right now, right after Dennis's plan made you feel hopeful. That hope is dangerous. Not the hope itself, what the hope can curdle into. The desperate need to accelerate, to make up for lost time, to feel like you're doing something big enough to match how far behind you feel. The financial industry is built on that feeling. Every high-fee product, every alternative investment, every opportunity that sounds too good comes with one implicit promise. You won't have to be patient. And patience is the only thing that actually works. Kenneth is fine now, by the way. He's 53. He's on the boring plan. The index fund, the automatic transfer, the quarterly statement he reads without flinching. He's 2 years behind Dennis, but he's moving. The crypto Discord tab is still open in his browser though. He hasn't closed it. Old habits. Close the tab. Now, here's where Dennis's plan gets a second engine that most people don't even know exists. And this is the part that might be worth more than everything I've told you so far. Dennis is on the phone with a woman from the Social Security office. He asks the question everyone asks. When should I claim? She walks him through it. If Dennis claims at 62, he gets roughly $1,480 a month. If he waits until 67, $2,110. If he waits until 70, $2,620. Dennis does what Dennis does. He does the math. The difference between claiming at 62 and claiming at 70 is $1,140 per month, every month, for the rest of his life. Over a 20-year retirement, that's $273,600. There's a silence on the phone. Then Dennis says, "So you're telling me the most valuable financial move I'll ever make is just waiting?" Basically, yeah. Dennis looks at his mug, takes a sip, lets $273,600 settle into his brain the way that $23,000 settled months ago. Except this time the number is hope, not dread. $273,000 for doing nothing except not claiming early. You cannot earn that return with a single investment decision at any point in your entire life with this level of certainty. There is no index fund, no real estate deal, no side hustle that delivers a guaranteed 77% increase with zero risk. And the reason nobody tells you this is that no one earns a commission when you wait. But what if Social Security goes bankrupt? It won't. The trust fund is projected to run short around 2033 to 2035. Run short does not mean vanish. It means the system pays from current tax revenue. which covers roughly 78 cents on the dollar. And the political reality is that cutting Social Security for current retirees is about as popular as setting a puppy on fire at a press conference. It will be adjusted. But the idea that Dennis will receive zero, that's a myth manufactured to sell gold coins and annuities to scared people. So let's add it up. Dennis's $387,000 in savings. Social Security at $2,620 a month, $31,440 a year, plus 4% annual draws from his portfolio, another $15,480. That's roughly $47,000 a year in retirement income. On a $74,000 working salary, that's 63% income replacement. Financial planners call 70 to 80% the target. Dennis isn't quite there. But Dennis also started from $23,000, and he's within striking distance of a life where the lights stay on, the fridge is full, and no one's eating cat food. There's one more thing, and this is the trap that ruins more late start plans than bad investments or impatience or anything Kenneth did wrong. If Dennis retires at 65, Medicare catches him. He's covered. But if Dennis retires at 63 or gets pushed out at 61 by a layoff, a health scare, a corporate restructuring, which happens to 40% of American retirees involuntarily, he's got a gap. 2 or 3 years where he needs private health insurance. At 63 years old, that's $1,200 to $1,800 a month. That's $28,000 to $43,000 that comes straight out of the $387,000, and almost nobody puts it in the retirement projection. This is the part that gets people, not the market, not inflation. The 2 years before Medicare, where your body or your company might make a decision your savings account wasn't ready for. Dennis's plan accounts for this. He keeps a separate bucket, not invested, not in the market, just parked in a high-yield savings account, equal to roughly 18 months of health insurance premiums. It's boring. It earns almost nothing. It might be the most important $25,000 he ever sets aside, because it's the difference between his plan surviving a surprise and his plan collapsing 2 years from the finish line. The system was not designed for you to win. It was designed for you to be confused at 25, overwhelmed at 35, paralyzed at 50, and profitable to someone else at every stage. The fact that you're watching this means the paralysis is cracking. Good. Let it crack. Dennis is going to be fine, not because he's special, because on a Tuesday in March, he logged into an old account, saw a number that scared him, and instead of closing the laptop and pretending, he sat at a kitchen table and said the number out loud. And then he made a phone call on Wednesday. And then he set up an automatic transfer that he will never once be excited about, that will never make him feel like he's winning, that will never be the subject of a single interesting conversation. And 15 years from now, that automatic transfer is the reason he's sitting on his porch with a coffee, a paid-off house, and the quiet, radical dignity of a man who has enough. He'll be drinking from that mug, the one that says, "World's okayest dad." Except by then, he won't be. He'll be the dad who looked at the worst number of his life and decided it wasn't the last number of his life. You're not too late. You're just on time for a different plan. It starts on a Tuesday with a kitchen table, before you talk yourself out of it.